Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. We have Jake and Zach on the podcast today. We're excited to jump into some college football predictions. That season is starting up and kind of into full swing now by this weekend. So we're excited to give our top 12 playoff predictions for the end of the season and then give some week one predictions as well. Before we jump into that, I want to thank everyone for liking and subscribing. Really appreciate the support and the support across all the platforms. And with that, let's jump into some top 12 predictions. So, Bender, the way this is going to work in this new expanded playoff is that each of the top five conference winners, in terms of their ranking, are going to be put in an automatic bid to that top 12. And then there's going to be seven at large teams. So basically, what that means is you're going to have the ACC champion, the SEC champion, Big 10, and Big 12. And then out of that group of five teams, whoever is the highest ranked conference champion between all of those conference champions, it's probably going to be that fifth one. And then you have seven at large teams from there. So we took the liberty of putting together our top 12, but we won't really rank them 1 through 12. We'll just go through the conference champions and then we'll go through those at large teams. So Bender, I think you're looking at our list right now. Do you want to run through a couple of those conference champions and talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, so let's talk about Georgia first. I think that's the easiest one. I still think they're the powerhouse of all of college football still, to
Yeah.
this day. Um, the only thing here that you can think about is, can Alabama challenge them? I think they can. Milrow's still there, so it's more of a toss-up in my opinion. But it's not irrational to have Georgia at number one and Bama at number five, because I feel like Bama will be in the college playoff as a one-loss team. Even if they're a two-loss team, they probably have a lot of valuable wins at that spot, making them the five seed. So that's where I would like to start out at. Looking at Oregon, the Big Ten's kind of intriguing this year just because of the expansion to that conference as well. Um, Michigan's rebuilding. Penn State is always hit or miss. Usually a solid defense, solid run game, but you don't really know after that. Can Allard perform? You never know. But still, the Big Ten is still to be reckoned with on top of the SEC. And then you got Oregon, who was a part of the expansion. I think they will fit in very well to the Big Ten and win, which is why you and I agreed on Oregon winning that conference.
Yeah, so let me jump back over to Georgia. I think, yeah, I mean, it's like death taxes in Georgia winning the SEC, right? So I think that's where we're at with them right now. It'll be interesting to see Kalen DeBoer in his first season at Alabama. They did have a good amount of talent leave in the transfer portal, but like you said, Jalen Milroe is still there, and I think there's still a lot of pieces at Bama. So I think they will be, a top end seed still. In terms of the expansion, though, you look at Alabama's schedule, they're going to also have to play Texas, I think, still, Tennessee, Georgia. So like that SEC schedule is going to get really tough. And one thing I'm excited for in the college football playoff this year is you're probably going to see like 2 and 3 loss teams in the playoff in that top 12 because they're going to go through schedules like that. So that's a good segue into the Big Ten and what you said about Oregon and that conference expansion. I think again, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 Big Ten teams, but Dylan Gabriel joining Oregon from Oklahoma, really, really talented QB who has a lot of experience, and then Dan Lanning, the coach at Oregon. I think it's a good pairing. They're just both like uber competitive. So I think Oregon's going to come in and challenge the other normal kind of big dogs in the Big Ten.
Yeah, interesting what you said about Bama having to play Texas and all that. Um, I think I look at Bama as a one-loss team, and I look at Texas as a two-loss team making the playoff, which makes sense. Georgia's going to beat both of them. Bama beats Texas, whatever. Um, the thing, now that I'm looking at the list, there's only one thing I think we should have reconsidered. Because I know people are going to be extremely pissed off by it, and I really don't care being a Michigan fan. We left Ohio State off of this list, um, which is a team that is expected to do well this year, but the expansion to the Big Ten could also bite them in the ass this year. So, again, it's not irrational. I feel like anything can happen with the college football playoff and just the expansion of conferences in general. Um, so I think that's something to consider. Something that I'm also looking at that's catching my eyes, Notre Dame being at number nine. It's just interesting to me because we don't have them as a conference winner, right? Um, but they're still making the playoffs for how weak of a schedule they usually have. That's usually something you have to consider is they usually have to win their conference to even be considered in the top four. Now that it's an expansion, they may make the playoffs.
Right.
Um, should make the playoffs in my opinion. But again, they start out with a tough matchup. They have Texas A&M to start the year. So if they
Yeah.
lose that game, it's already looking bad for them, and they're fighting for a top, or not a top spot, like one of the last spots of the college football playoffs. So 9 is also a good option.
Yeah, I mean Notre Dame is perpetually like a one or two loss team, even though that schedule they play. And technically, I don't think they have a conference. Technically, I think they're an independent. So
Yeah,
they don't,
independent.
yeah, they don't play like technically like a conference schedule. But either way, yeah, I mean the expansion of the Big Ten, you could have four Big Ten teams make it, and it could be Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, and even like a even like a Michigan State. You could have uh I mean, shoot, like to get into the top 12, depending on how the season shakes out.
Iowa's always there.
Washington's in the Big Ten now. You can't forget about them.
It's Washington, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Penn
Yeah,
State. There's so many teams that we talk about it every year, and it's a lot less important this year compared to past years. But like the Big Ten's just gonna mess each other up,
yeah.
and it's just the way it goes.
It's
And
gonna be brutal. It's gonna be brutal. I think another surprising thing on this list too that we kind of just like have to include, and you talk about a team like Ohio State who might end up being like a 13 or a 14, you have to include Boise State because a team like Boise State is probably going to be the highest ranked conference champion out of that group of five, MAC conference and American conference and like all those kinds of things. So you're going to have to put like a Boise State over an Ohio State, over an Ole Miss, over an LSU, over a Penn State. Like one of those teams is going to make it over one of those other teams, right? And that's going to be an interesting conversation. Even though it's expanding to 12 teams, it's not like it's just going to be like the fix all. Like the Florida State conversation last year, obviously being undefeated. There's still going to be teams that are on that bubble, and it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a conversation.
but I think it's a lot harder to argue with what the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 seeded teams than it is to argue like who's the fourth seeded team that makes the playoffs. So I feel like there's going to be a lot less argument because if you're the 15th ranked team or even 13th ranked team at this time, you they're just going to tell you do better. Like just do better.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's where I think they'll tell you whether like last year it was a one loss team you're kicking off, right? Like I don't understand. Like it just makes more sense. You had more of an argument last year with four playoff teams than you do now with 12. Just be better, just win the football games you're supposed to, and just go from there.
so let me
Utah, I was gonna
Utah.
say one thing about Utah
Yes.
because Utah had a breakout year last year and nobody expected it. They have a lot of returning players, and I think that experience will do them well. And I think they're gonna be sneaky good in the college playoff if they make it there.
Cam Rising is playing his seventh season at the
Yes.
University of Utah. Yeah, which is insane.
Yes.
So I'm just going to mention any team that we haven't mentioned yet that we do have in our top 12. So we do have, Georgia, Oregon, like we mentioned, Utah, Boise State, Alabama, Texas, Michigan, Penn State, LSU, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, and then Clemson is that ACC champion that we predicted. But one more question for you, Bender, before we jump over to week one predictions for the games that are in the top 25 for college football. I think this becomes more interesting if lower seeded teams actually knock off some of the higher seeded teams. What's the likelihood that you think that happens in this first go around with the college football playoff in that bracket?
I think you're looking at least two upsets.
Really?
Um, well, here's how I look at it, right? Like you have either what Clemson or Notre Dame or somebody that might be ranked, let's say top five in the college football playoff. They could go up against a team that's in the Big Ten and just get smoked. That's where I worry about it because it's like it's not the same competition. Now, when you talk about Big Ten versus SEC, you expect it to be a competitive game, maybe a toss-up game. But if you have Clemson, who we have as like the third seeded team, right? And they go up against a Michigan, not to be biased, that's just a random example. Like if Michigan is even half of what they were last year, like Clemson, I'm sorry, that's just like a false 3 seed. Congratulations, you won your conference, but
Hmm.
get out of here.
The conference thing is going to be interesting. I agree that there's going to be upsets, like just by nature of the seeding, it's going to happen. Um, so that's why I also brought up like if you are the 13 or 14 seed, like I would want a chance to go in there, especially if that 13 or 14 seed is a what if it's Penn State at 13, right? And that 12 seed is going to play Boise State in the first round. You know,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's interesting. But
Uh, Real quick before we move on to the week one predictions here, it makes me wonder. So March Madness, right? You have a crap ton of teams. You got like Cinderella runs and all that kind of good stuff.
uh-huh.
It makes me wonder if a number 12 team, that's severe scenario, but number 12 team wins the first round and catches some kind of momentum. Do you think they can win it all? Because I feel like you're probably good enough to do it, right? If
Yeah,
you're making the college football playoff, you're good
yeah.
enough.
Like our 12 team is Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Ole Miss
Like
is a good SEC team. Lane Kiffin, like that, they could win it all if like
catching momentum at the right time can do a team well. And that's where I'll leave that one. But we will move on to week one predictions. We're going to start from August 30th, Friday, August 30th, all the way through the weekend. And our first one is going to be number 16, Oklahoma against Temple. Who do you got in this one?
I feel like Temple is the poster child for like beginning of the college football season tune-up games where it looks like it's a real game for a top
Yeah,
25 ranked opponent, and it's really not. So I think that's I'm going to take Arkansas on that one. Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, sorry.
Yeah. Oklahoma is a pretty solid team. Temple, again, that's just like a random beatdown game for them. Um, they probably don't deserve to play Oklahoma that soon in the season, but it is what it is. Now we're going to Saturday games. That is the only Friday, August 30th game that we got. So we're going to Saturday, and this is a hot one. I don't know who you got on this, but we got number one Georgia against number 14 Clemson already.
Yeah, this is an awesome week one game. Whoever, kudos to both of those athletic directors for scheduling this game as the week one game. But I have Georgia. I have Georgia all the way still. Yeah.
Yeah, I have Georgia going undefeated for this season.
Yeah.
So, any predictions we do for the rest of these episodes, the rest of college football, expect Georgia.
Before you go
Go
to the next
Dogs.
game, I saw one analyst say that he was gonna stop predicting Georgia losses until he sees Georgia actually lose because
Yeah.
it's not worth it.
Yeah, you can't blame them, right? This is a game that I know you're going to be watching. We got number 8 Penn State playing West Virginia as well.
Yeah, West Virginia gave Penn State a good game to start this season last year, but I think this is a more talented Penn State team, a more experienced Penn State team, a less experienced West Virginia team. So I'm gonna take Penn State in this one.
Gotcha. So I actually have Penn State losing this game. I feel like it's going to be a trap game to start the year. I do have Penn State having valuable wins later on in the season to get them into the playoffs, but I just don't think the way their season's going to start is very good. So I have West Virginia in this one. And we're going to stay in the Big Ten. Iowa being ranked once again, even though they have no offense ever. Number 25, Iowa against Illinois State. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Iowa in this game too. Um, Illinois State, I don't think is gonna be able to score.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna score less than Iowa. So if the Iowa defense could somehow force other teams into negative points, this would be like the game to do it.
For sure. I actually have Iowa winning 3-2.
Yeah,
Um, hey, their offense is so bad that the other team's going to get a safety, and their defense is so good they won't get any offensive points except for a field goal. So that's where we're at.
brutal.
Um, but I got the next game here for you. It's number 15 Tennessee against Chattanooga. I feel like that's another beatdown game, and I'm just going to roll with Tennessee right away.
Yeah, yeah, that's interstate rival too, right? So that's definitely like little brother vibes from Chattanooga in Tennessee. So that's a beatdown.
Yeah. That's just not a game I want to watch, if I'm being honest. Um, no offense, SEC Network, for hosting that game. Have fun with that. But I got number 17, Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State. I think Oklahoma State pulls this one off. It kind of feels like a trap game to me, but I think they will win the game.
Yeah, I mean that's another game like the North Dakota State game with Colorado, right? That's like an FCS powerhouse kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll roll with the ranked team in that scenario again. I just think to start the season, just the confidence of being a ranked team, I think does well for college kids going into that week one game. They play well, they feel good, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Moving to the next game, we got more Big Ten action. We got number 2 Ohio State against Akron. Ohio State. That's just easy.
Yeah, move along. Let's
Like that's not even. I don't know why that's even a game. Um,
what's
Number
the
4
check for
Texas
Akron?
versus Colorado State. I'm excited to see Ewers play again.
Yeah,
I will say that because I feel like the way last season ended was not the way they wanted it to end, or anybody wanted it to end, just because we enjoyed watching that Texas team go on a big run. I have Texas in this game. Who do you got?
yeah, I've Texas in this game too. I would echo that I'm excited to see Quinn Ewers play again. I feel like he gets a little bit of a bad rap because people just want to see the next Manning, but like give Quinn his time too. Like he deserves it. He has the experience. He's played really well for that Texas team. They're a legit contender this year.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised that Manning didn't transfer after Quinn Ewers said he was staying. Um, but maybe kudos to him for
Yeah,
staying another year and just trying to learn some more and maybe even get a college degree at that rate.
right.
Um, we got number 19 Miami against Florida. I feel like that's a trap game too, but I feel like you're gonna have to break out the turnover chain. I think Miami wins this one.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun game. I mean, anytime you get like Miami, Florida State, Florida, or Miami, Florida State, like all those like the Florida teams going at each other because they're such big D1 schools that are all really talented. They're fun games. I'm gonna take Florida in this one. I think I'm gonna take Florida over Miami in this one. I think Florida has a better season than people give them credit for right now. They won't be, they won't be in the playoff, but I think they win like 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, I think that's a game that actually comes down to the wire too. So I'm not gonna act like Miami's gonna come out here and beat down Florida like some of the other games we have going on here, but um yeah, I think Florida does deserve more respect. I just feel like they're gonna get that throughout the season rather than the first game of the season. So another one that we shouldn't really have to talk too much about is number 5 Alabama against Western Kentucky. Alabama's winning this one.
No, I have a lot to talk about. I'm gonna take what? No, no,
Psych.
no. The players are hyped to play for Kalen DeBoer for the first game in that new era. They come out and thrash them. They might put up 70.
I honestly hope so, so that way people can stop talking about the next Saban era. Um, but our number 12 ranked team for college football playoffs, who is number 6 right now, Ole Miss, is playing Furman. I think that's an easy win for Ole Miss.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah,
Next
move along. Yeah.
next game.
Fair enough. All right, we got UT Martin against number 18 Kansas State. Kansas State's usually a pretty sneaky team. I have them doing pretty well this season. Not making college football playoff, obviously, but still having a great year. They will win this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll win this game. I have them ending up as like a high teens kind of rank.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right where they are already. They're already 18. I think they'll stay there. It'll be a very up and down. Like they'll bounce from like 15 to 20 something and then end up
yeah,
in
yeah.
the teens there. Our conference winner for the year, number 3 Oregon, is going to be playing Idaho. Again, why is this a game?
Yep, yeah. Tune-up game beginning of the season. Idaho gets a truckload of money to go in and get thrashed by Oregon.
It's just so stupid, but to an exciting game. This is actually an exciting game. Let's go number 7 Notre Dame against number 20 Texas A&M.
Yeah, this is definitely an exciting game. Is this at Texas A&M?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think the 12th man, that stadium, first game of the season, Sam Hartman's gone, so you don't have that veteran quarterback presence at Notre Dame anymore. I think Texas A&M rattles Notre Dame a little bit in that first game.
See, I have Notre Dame doing a little bit better than what we had them at in our playoff rankings. We had them at number 9. I think they'll end up being probably like a 5 or 6 seed instead because I think this is a very valuable game to them. I believe they have 4 or 5 ranked opponents this year they got to play. I think this is a good start for them. If they don't get this win, like that's
Question,
already a bad rap for them, and they're probably just done.
question
Um,
for
so I
sure.
think just the need to win this game, they will win this game and come out of this, even if it's a away game. Moving to the Big Ten again, we got number 9 Michigan against Fresno State. I don't think that's a game at all. I
Yeah,
know we have a new quarterback,
Michigan.
but it does not matter at all.
Yeah, for sure, Michigan.
Yeah. The next one here, we got number 21 Arizona against New Mexico. Could be a trap game. New Mexico already lost a game this year to start the season. One of the early games we've had.
Yeah.
Arizona wins this one in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not I don't see anything about New Mexico that'd be scary for Arizona.
No. Probably the last interesting game of the weekend, which is Sunday night. It's an ABC game. It's USC ranked number 23 against LSU ranked number 13. Who do you have?
This is an exciting one, and for the first time, it's actually Big Ten USC versus SEC LSU. So that'll be kind of cool to see those conferences clash. But I have LSU in this game. I think they're going to be really good this season. I think they're going to end up as a top 10 team in the playoff and return to some of that dominance from like the Joe Burrow days. So
Yeah, I agree. I have LSU in this one just because USC lost Caleb Williams, and that was half the reason why you're in any game last year. So they still have some issues to solve on that team, in my opinion.
yeah,
Got to see how the freshmen and all them look anyway. I just think the inexperience and the struggles they had towards the end of last year will carry into this game. LSU all the way on this one. Now, we have Boston College and Florida State. Florida State is ranked number 10 this year so far, but they already lost a game. So I don't know if they're a fluke or if that was just a fluke of a game.
either way, this feels like a must win for them. So I'm gonna take them in this game over Boston College.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to go with this as well. I have Florida State winning. I thought they were going to come out for like a revenge season this year, and that's just not the way they wanted to start.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, not at all.
yeah, but I agree. I feel like we agreed on most of these. We do have our upsets, but a lot of these are some beatdowns. Hopefully, y'all enjoy some of the ranked games we have this weekend, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's week one, right? So it's nice to have at least a couple of really interesting games on the schedule. And as the season goes on and more context get added, it's always more exciting and there's more storylines with each of these games. But this has been another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. Thanks everyone again for watching and listening. Remember to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you'd like to see us talk about next, and we'll see you on the next episode.